those cigarette ashes in the sink again. Flogging beside cold coffee rings, the radio whispered gospel through static. Nobody really listened to. He sat shirtless near the window fan, reading yesterday's newspaper slow. She kept sewing a tear in the curtains just to keep her hands occupied. Years ago they danced in crowded barrooms down off Beale after midnight rain. Now they measured whole evenings together by the sound of passing trains. Sometimes he asked where the matches went. Sometimes she answered without looking up. Funny how certain marriages survive long after conversation does. The kitchen smelled like fried onions, dust and old tobacco smoke. One ceiling stain spread wider every winter. Nobody bothered fixing anymore. Outside, kids laugh beneath the street lamp, playing games beside the curb. Inside, silence sat between them heavy, like furniture too old to move. Near 2 a.m. he finally stood up and washed bourbon from his glass. She watched ashes drift down the drain slowly, without saying much at all. Then he touched her shoulder, passing by. Small as habit, more than love, but she leaned into it for 1 second, like memory still mattered some. Loneliness inside a marriage got a different sound than loneliness alone. Softer, but heavier. Rain started tapping on the fire escape just before the station signed off air. He fell asleep beside the radio humming. She covered him with the old wool blanket. In the kitchen sink, the cigarette ashes circled slowly through thin gray water, like two people growing older together without knowing how to leave. Room 12 had thin blue curtains and a lamp that flickered when it rained. The wallpaper peeled beside the mirror, like the building got tired with age. Traveling salesmen slept their Tuesdays. Truck drivers mostly came alone, but on weekends couples checked in whispering, like love needed hiding from town. Miss Carla worked the front desk evenings, kept cigarettes tucked in her sleeve. Could tell before sunrise most mornings which couples wouldn't leave together. Sometimes the arguments stayed muffled, sometimes dishes hit the wall, sometimes heartbreak sounded quieter than anything, like no talking at all. With bruised makeup beneath her eyes, the man beside her kept counting cash without looking at her the whole drive. Near midnight, Miss Carla heard soft crying through the pipes beside the sink. Then silence heavy as winter curtains settled over everything. At dawn, the woman left alone, carrying one small suitcase and a coat. Fog rolled low across the highway, streetlights glowed dull through the smoke. Inside room 12, the coffee sat untouched, bed sheets tangled near the floor, and the buzzing neon outside kept humming like nothing happened there before. Places remember things, walls do too. That's why some rooms feel lonely, even standing empty. Years later, the riverside finally closed down. Windows boarded, pale and gray, but folks driving past on rainy evenings still swear the old sign glows some nights. And somewhere behind that darkened window, room 12 probably still remains, holding cigarettes, smoking low voices nobody ever carried away. Kept the night on nightly, though nobody sat there anymore. cups stay dry and upside down beside the cracked enamel stove. Outside the rail yard groaned like thunder. Steel wheels scream beyond the hill. Every southbound freight through Memphis made the old apartment tremble still. His wife Lena left one humid August with 2 dresses and a father's ring. Didn't slam the door or raise a voice. Some endings arrive quietly. Afterward he stopped fixing little things. The screen door leaned halfway loose. A ceiling stain spread slow above the hallway, like bad news nobody discussed. Beside the window, smoking Chesterfields in the dark, watching freight cars drag past slowly, covered in rust and railroad marks. Sometimes he imagined Lena sleeping somewhere far beyond Tennessee. Sometimes loneliness got so heavy, even breathing felt noisy. One night rain flooded near the tracks. Engines moved slower through the storm. Blue sparks flashed beneath the wheels, like trying to stay warm. Walter rested his head against the screen, listening to that iron cry. Funny how trains keep moving forward while certain people stay behind. A man can get used to almost anything, even an empty apartment shaking every night. Near sunrise, the freight sounds faded. Street lights buzz pale and weak. Walter crushed the cigarette into the ashtray without really falling asleep. Outside, dawn crawled over Memphis slowly. Cold gray settling through the yard, and somewhere another southbound freight was already rolling through the dark. Every Saturday near sunset, Miss Evelyn polished those black church shoes. Same careful circles with the dish towel. Same radio humming Sunday blues. The leather cracked along the edges from years of Memphis weather and wear, but she still set them by the front door nightly, like somebody might need them there. Her husband Daniel sang bass on Sundays, third pew back near the aisle, big hands folded neat through sermons, quiet man with a crooked smile. Heart gave out one July morning while trimming weeds beside the fence. Afterward the whole house sounded different. Even clocks felt too loud at night. Kept doing it, said kindly, you should pack those away. But grief don't work much like closets. You can't fold it up neat someday. So every Saturday she dusted them slowly, while rain tapped soft against the screen. Certain kinds of loneliness settle gentle, like evening light across old things. One young preacher stopped by visiting after choir practice in the cold. Noticed those shoes beside the doorway, shining careful though growing old. Miss Evelyn caught him staring briefly, then smiled without embarrassment. Said after 42 years together, some parts still expect him home. People think love disappears after death. Truth is, sometimes it just changes rooms. This morning sunlight touched the hallway, soft through yellow kitchen lace. Dust moved slow above the floorboards in that quiet little place. And those Sunday shoes stayed waiting beside the front door like before, patient as old hymns and memory, in a house built for two no more. wrapped inside an old work shirt. Dust gathered thick along the label, glass still smelling faintly of smoke. Henry used to hide it from the preacher every Sunday before church. Said some habits belonged to Saturday nights and didn't need daylight judging them. He worked 23 years near the river, loading freight down by the docks. Came home carrying winter in his shoulders and machine grease on his palms. Most evenings he drank slow beside the radio, listening to Cardinals baseball games, sometimes laughing at things half remembered before growing quiet again. Stayed hidden after the funeral. Miss Loretta never moved it once. Couldn't explain exactly why she kept it, only knew throwing it away felt wrong. People think grief lives in photographs. Truth is, it settles in ordinary things: coffee cups, jacket pockets, radio stations, and bourbon bottles under beds. Last winter the pipes froze in the kitchen. Wind slipped cold beneath the door. She pulled that bottle out near midnight and sat cross-legged on the floor. Didn't even pour herself a drink, just held it there against her chest, like the shape of it still carried the weight of Henry's hands. Some folks inherit money, some inherit loneliness. Most times they arrive together. This morning sunlight crossed the bedroom, pale through thin yellow curtains. Outside Memphis buses groaned awake. A long rain darkened streets, and beneath that narrow iron bedstead, the bourbon bottle waited still, quiet as old love surviving inside a house gone mostly silent. There's a bourbon bottle under the bed, wrapped inside an old work shirt. Dust gathered thick along the label, glass still smelling faintly of smoke. Henry used to hide it from the preacher every Sunday before church. Said some habits belonged to Saturday nights and didn't need daylight judging them. He worked 23 years near the river,